Cosmic MacDuff. He is the CEO of McVersity Group. He is a professional and a safety advocate. Good morning, Cosmic.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. You know, the last time I came here, yeah, it was fine too. So I'm here today again.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's look at this from the educational aspect of it.
Okay.
What needs to be done to get everyone on board with safety compliance?
When you talk about safety, it's something that everyone needs to be involved with. Safety is part of life because without health, you cannot be able to say, okay, you can be wealthy. Now, to be able to, get everybody involved with safety, it comes with awareness. Awareness is what's important for everybody to be safety aware, that these are the things you should do in order for you to, get safety, know about safety, in order for you to be safe wherever you are. Now, there are professional courses one can actually involve in order for you to be professionally, or even if you don't want to put yourself into safety profession, but as an individual, you need to be safe, both at workplace, both at your house, everywhere. For example, me, I have my safety precautions at home. For example, fire extinguishers. I have those things at home. Those are the things that can help you to, when there is fire, you can be able to use fire extinguisher to help yourself before you can start calling out help.
Yeah.
You understand? So, and so many people do not actually know how to use these fire extinguishers. But there is a code you can be able to use in order for you to operate a fire extinguisher. For example, it's called pass. You pull the pin, you aim, you squeeze, and you spray. So that way you can be able to use a fire extinguisher to quench some fires that, that can cause harm. So those are the ways in order for individuals to be able to understand safety and to be safe and to be aware that you need to be safe anywhere you are, because our well-being is one of the most top priorities.
So, I mean, from what we have said all day, we've come to realize that a lot of Nigerians don't actually pay so much attention to safety measures. Now, what do you think the role of government or the role of people in positions of authority have to do to also ensure that, because, I was telling Balade earlier before you joined us that you shouldn't get tired of saying these things. But some people, you just hear things like, we don't talk our own, we are not stressing ourselves. So what should government or people in authority do to also ensure that people that are serving under them, are compliant with safety measures?
Okay. I will first of all appreciate the government because there are already procedures in place. Now, for me as a person, I implement quality management system for organizations. I implement occupational health and safety for organizations and also individuals. Now, you look at the procedures that government have put in place. It's there. All these things are there. For example, SON, they can implement 45,001 for you, which is occupational health and safety. So all these things are there. But the problem is we individuals, we are the problem that we seek to solve. Because we feel that this thing does not concern us, and that's why we don't look into them. But when you look into all these things, you discover that already government has them. It's just for people that will implement it, people who are serious-minded, people who are focused, people who are determined to see that, okay, we can be able to spread the news on safety. So I think government has it already, but we individuals are the ones that need to, put our minds to it. You can only take a horse to the stream, but you can't force the horse to,
drink water. But then, we cannot keep saying that because individuals are not doing the necessary things, we just leave it to chance. Because if we keep saying that, then we will continue to have occupational hazards. Then we'll continue to have people dying at their workplaces. Then let's even leave occupation. Let's even talk about humans. Everyday human. You just gave us a very quick tip on how to use the fire extinguisher. If we go out there and take a survey, we'd realize that a lot of people just have it in their homes.
They don't have it. Not that they have it in their homes.
Wow.
90% of Nigerians don't have safety precautions at home.
Interesting.
That is the truth, because I've been able to do some kind of survey, and you discover that 90% don't have it. In fact, a layman here in Nigeria don't have anything to do with safety. That's the truth. You can't find fire extinguisher. Even in a car, you can't see it in their cars.
Interesting.
You can't see fire extinguisher in cars. But, you know, if a safety professional should catch you, or road safety should catch you and, you know, force you to pay some amount of money for you to be able to get a fire extinguisher and put in your car, you call them wickedness. So there are implementations already. They are enforcing it. But, you know, Nigeria is multitude of people. You can't be able to really, you know, get it.
Everybody.
But if all of us, I keep saying it. For example, there is an organization I implemented occupational health and safety for. They produce master batch colors, you know. Now, it's run by Indians. This organization, when we did the implementation for them, I prescribed personal protective equipment for them. That's PPE. Now, they need a PPE for the nose masks, not just the nose mask we use. There is this respiratory nose mask that you use in production rooms because of dust, so that you can filter it. Now, there's also your boot, your torso. Those are the things they need, and their hand gloves. You understand? So now, employees don't want to put them on. You see the problem? When we recommended this, employees don't want to put them on. They say that it's making them uncomfortable. Now, these guys inhale bad substance. You know, when they inhale this substance, it's something that gradually you will not know. Maybe when you get to 50-something, you begin to see the symptoms of the things you've been able to inhale inside you. You know, but we need implementation. We need to enforce it so that they can be able to, you know, start wearing their protective equipment. These are employees that organization is trying to make sure that they are safe at workplace, but employees don't want to wear it. Even their top management, I don't want to call the name of the organization. Yes. So they don't want to wear it. You get. So what we now did is we did what we call a management review. During the management review, we told the CEO of the organization that these are the things we were able to, you know, notice that employees don't want to wear this. Now, there is something spectacular the man did that actually, you know, I was Indian. I was so happy. Instead of him to give them punishment, you understand, like reduction of salaries, if you don't do this, reduction of, he gave them motivation. And how does it work? He told them that the management, he said that anybody who does not wear protective equipment will not get 5,000 naira.
Interesting.
So if you wear it for a complete month, you have 5,000. Top management 10,000. Now these things are motivation.
Interesting.
I am telling you the honest truth. From the next day,
the balance of motivation and punishment.
It was massive. We began to see employees rushing for protective equipment because of 5,000. You see the mentality there. This is Nigerian mentality. Instead of, sometimes punishment doesn't really work. It's motivation that really works for people to be able to see, get it right. So those are the things we need to do in order for us to empower people to be able to, you know, do these things. I've been able to go to different schools to talk about safety.
All right.
Secondary schools, universities like Unilag, to talk about school safety for them. And you see, there are big boys, there are big girls. Some of them will start leaving the place. But at some point, we started, you know, to show motivation, something that can bring them in. We came up with snacks. These guys, even if it is sweet, they will come. They need to come. You understand? So when we started sharing something, all of them came. And we started talking about, and we got massive people that did professional courses on health and safety and environment, you see. So sometimes the only way to really get your result is through motivation. I love motivation a lot. Instead of giving punishment, I give motivation and I get my result 100%.
I'd like us to list a couple of hazards and list the procedure to get to safety. Now, I see sometimes if you walk into hotels or big buildings or cinemas, you see a neon sign somewhere that says exit. and you see something like in case of fire, do this, in case of... So I'd like us to list a couple of hazards, things that can possibly happen at work, like a fire outbreak, electrical short-circuiting, whatever it is, and how employees are actually expected to run through the procedure that is expected to run through. So let's start with fire, for instance.
Okay, fire is quite inevitable. It can happen here as we are talking.
Hopefully not, but
yes,
all
hopefully
right.
Not.
Thank you.
In my head. I did the Nigerian thing.
Thank you. Hopefully not, but
then,
go on, please.
You know, you don't know when fire will happen. So it is very much expected that you put things in place so that when these things occur, there is a way out. Now, for example, every organization should have an emergency exit.
Okay.
That emergency exit will allow people to be able to leave when there is sudden outbreak. Now, there is what we call fire alarm. Fire alarm, the one that has smoke detector. Smoke detectors help you whenever there is smoke anywhere in the building. You begin to hear the alarm, and people will understand that there is fire happening in the building.
Yeah.
And they will run down to where we call the assembly point. Now, that assembly point is where you now do head count to know that, okay, everybody in they're all complete in the company.
And no one is trapped inside.
No one is trapped. And if there is anyone trapped, you can now begin to, you know, find a way. Now, there are safety signs in order for you to know that this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. Now, for example, in a construction site, there are some safety signs you can see.
All right.
Do not enter. Staffs only. Those are signs that allow you to know that this is a restricted area. So in every work site where there is signs, it allows communication for people to know. That's what we call awareness. So awareness comes with communication, both the things you can see and hear.
All right.
So organizations, we always encourage them to do constant training, because through training you can be able to keep them aware that they should be able to, you know, keep up with safety procedures.
Okay.
Now, in organizations, there is what we call procedure. Procedure is like a documentation that talks about the things you should do.
All right.
Now, for example, this is tea or coffee, right? It's a tea or coffee program. And let's just take, for example, I'm just trying to, you know, give you a practical example of what it means to have procedure at workplace. Now, in a food sector, there's what we call a procedure on how to make food. You know? Now, when you want to make a food, there are steps of the things you need to do to make such food.
Yes.
Now, that's why you discover that when you go to different food restaurants and all that, when you eat this one, it has a different taste.
Yes.
You come again and eat the same place, it has a different taste. It's because they don't have a procedure. Now, for example, a tea, if you put milk here and put sugar and put Milo and turn it, bring another cup, put Milo first, put sugar again, put milk, turn both of them, it will have different taste.
Because of the procedure.
Because of the procedure.
Yes.
You get? Now, every organization should be able to discover and document their procedure for work.
Okay, but because of brand and all of that, let's try as much as possible to use generic names for the products that we're talking about.
Beverage.
So you can just say beverages.
Okay, beverages. Sorry, I used that.
No problem.
Okay, so you see, so it will have different taste, but it's still the same substance that you used in making the same thing.
So we're talking about documenting procedures now.
Yeah.
Now, when you document procedures, you share with all the employees at workplace.
Okay.
They begin to read and understand what it means to do what they should do at some point.
Interesting.
So when they read these things, they will understand. Now, for the same example of the place I implemented, they do master batch colors. There's a procedure on how to do master batch colors. If you miss any timing, you've lost it. It becomes a non-conformity. A non-conformity is a product that does not conform with the standard of the organization. You put it aside, and it becomes a waste for the organization. So when you use the procedure, it helps you to know the timing of the times you need to put this, and that, and you get the specific taste. For example, of a brand that has one particular taste, you cannot change it anywhere in the world. You should be able to, get the brand. You see? So those are procedures on how to do. And organizations hide their procedures so that you don't know how to make it. So that's the thing.
Right. So let me jump in there. So this means that if there is a procedure rather to different products and everything, it actually reduces hazards.
Of course.
That is when if you're working in a place where the things there are highly inflammable, and you already know that, okay, so when you're putting this particular acid, you're putting this particular thing, there will not be fire.
Of course.
Interesting.
Now, that runs to people that, we mentioned fire, the procedure for accounting for everybody and knowing that everybody is safe. How about a situation where it is a building collapse? And maybe a couple of people were able to escape or something, or it was a partial building collapse. What's the procedure then? Because we are going to talk about, there are some offices, for lack of space, especially in this Lagos, that everybody is cramped up in confined spaces. So in that kind of situation, we now have a partial building collapse or something. We've been very lucky in this part of the world that we are not naturally prone to natural disasters.
Yes.
But if anything like that happens and there's a partial building collapse or something happens, what's the procedure of getting yourself?
There's a procedure we call hierarchy of safety, occupational safeties. First, you need to provide the PPE necessary. You need to eliminate. You need to make sure that there are so many things, administrative and all that. Now, everybody have what we call division of labor. Now, in a building or in an organization where they do, where they take safety very serious, especially construction organizations, they take safety very serious. Oil and all that, they take safety very serious. Now, there is what we call, there's an incident that happened, one of the most powerful fire incident that happened in the world so far. It's called the Piper Alpha incident. Now, Piper Alpha incident happened just because of a little mistake, a shift. They did not report what was meant to, just a minor thing that happened. Yeah. They didn't report it on time. And the next shift that came in didn't actually know that something like this happened. And there was an explosion that killed almost 1,000 and something people on week. You get? And just 2 people were able to, survive the fire incident. Now, if you are taking safety precautions seriously, there should always be survey on the building. When you do surveys like this, it helps you to know a weakened building that, okay, this place is not good again. Like, if I come into this building, the first thing I look at is the walls to know whether there are cracks. And if we are implementing safety for you, we'll first of all look at your building, look at your floor. For example, there is an organization I implemented at Ireland. Their floor was very dusty, so we had to recommend epoxy for them, epoxy flooring, for them to be able to have a very smooth floor, so that people cannot have injury. You get? So those are the things you need to do. And for example, if this place is slippery, there should be a sign to show that slippery. You put it there. If I'm coming, I can be able to see that this place is slippery. And I'll avoid it. So if an organization is taking their safety serious, they can be able to know when a building is weakened to avoid collapse. You get? So anything that is potential to cause you harm is either a risk or a hazard. So you must be able to eliminate them
before
it happens. If not, it will eliminate you. That's where you see collapse of buildings and all that.
So you're just saying generally that there is no smoke. I mean, there is no fire without smoke.
Of course.
Or there's no smoke without fire.
Smoke without fire.
Okay. There's no smoke without fire.
Yeah.
Interesting now. So, you mentioned something when it has to do with reporting situations when you see, like, for the building collapse, we talked about cracks, we talked about shifts, we talked about different things. So, but how about when you see it, you report and nothing is done? Because I have heard situations like that.
It happens in many organizations, and that's where you see top management coming. Top management must be able to first carry safety on their head. So if they are not, you see, there is employee relationship and there is employer relationship.
Right.
You get? So the employer, his responsibility is to make sure that all employees are safe at work. There is a safe and good environmental condition that when you come to work, everywhere is okay for you to work. Now, the employee relationship and their responsibility is to make sure that they carry out those things that are put in place for them as employees in order for them to be safe at workplace, because the employer is doing it for them. And in the other hand, the employer is also trying to reduce costs, because once it happens, you will spend more than what you are using to prevent.
Yes.
You understand? So the first is the employer to provide what is necessary for the employee. Now, in a situation where an employee will see and report, you've done your part. You've done your part. And sometimes when you report this thing, report constantly, they begin to look at you as somebody that bucks. Maybe you are trying to feel, you know it all, you do this, you all know. You understand? But you must be able to have a documentation that shows that you've reported.
Okay.
That will elevate you from such problems that you saw, you reported, and you have a documentation. So it's either you send a mail that shows as an evidence
that this was reported.
So when we are doing audit, this evidence comes out. Why didn't you report this? I reported though. Where is the evidence that you reported?
Here you go.
So if it is verbal evidence, we don't take it. Now, in doing an audit, you cannot be able to get a particular result if you just use one evidence. Evidence may be by your verbal, or by written,
email,
by VAT, all those things, or by sightseeing too. Those are evidences. So you must combine 3 or 2 in order for you to get a particular result. So when we come to do audit, we ask the employee, okay, you have sent this. Why did you not report? I have reported, though. Nobody said, where is the evidence? You begin to see them. I just said it to them now. You did not report. So if there is an evidence that shows, okay, you've done verbal reporting and you've done written down
and
report,
in fact took someone to see it.
You now show us. We'll say, okay, so who will now punish is the employer.
Well, we don't motivate that employer anymore.
I think that from all that has been said today, the finger points at not having standard procedures in organizations, because we just keep saying that people are difficult to train, people are difficult to teach about safety procedures, but when you don't even have a standard practice in your organization,
you can't get it right.
You don't have a standard communication practice, you want to give instructions, you just say it verbally and you move on. There's no email to say, oh, I reminded this team of this. There's nothing to say, oh, this was reported. I mean, see what he said about that that Piper Alpha incident.
Just
the person that handed over the shift could have done due diligence to say, oh, I noticed that there's this photo on your shift. If you can take a look at it, it would have saved lives of thousands of people. Procedures. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show.
Yes, we really like that this conversation has gotten to a point where we're able to pick out the faults of the employers and the employee. And also, we've been able to now shed light on the fact that procedures are very important. PPEs are also very important.
They are even the number one things you should provide for your employees. Provided, there are some work environment that don't need personal PPE. So, but once you are working in a place that has to do with PPE, you must provide it. Now, for example, in an organization where they produce something, you begin to see that the environment will be very hot.
Okay.
Once it's that hot, it will be so uncomfortable for people to work in that place. So what do? You put air ventilation that can be able to extract the heat. Do you know something like on the roof that rotates like this?
Yes.
So it extracts the heat that is inside and brings in air into. So that's what they can do in order for them to implement safety precaution for the health of the employee. So when you provide all these things for employees and they're no more following it, you now find something, either motivation or punishment.
There has to be a balance.
There has to be a balance. Thank you so much, Cosmic Macduff, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
The conversation has been on occupational hazards and preventive measures. We hope you've learned one or two things. PPEs are very important. That is personal protective equipment. Make sure you have those things for your employees, and also employers have them.